Greetings, travellers. Eric UK here with RPG A Day 2020, Day 20, entitled Investigate. If you're like me, when people talk about role-playing games, generally you think of two genres. You've got your fantasy and your science fiction. They're not the only ones, because things break down into science fiction, goes to superheroes or what have you. And there are comedic ones and the like. And there are horror ones. Call of Cthulhu being very particular in this, and a game I'm going to do a video about quite shortly. But horror ones and certain other genres are not built around your usual dungeon crawl or what you might imagine as your typical role-play adventure. Call of Cthulhu is the main one, 1920s investigative horror. But you could also use something like GURPS or Strange Worlds. Is it Strange Worlds? Used to be the Deadlands system. Savage Worlds. You could use those to run something like a Sherlock Holmes style game, or you can use that sort of genre. You can go that route. And investigative games are very, very different, because they're not usually about fighting monsters, kicking in the door, taking the treasure. In fact, I'd go so far to say that's completely antithetical to this particular genre or style. Instead, they're much more based around role play and problem solving and puzzle solving and putting clues together and the like. And if you've got the right sort of head for that, that makes for a very, very good game. As much as I love Call of Cthulhu and I love the occasional investigative scenario, my brain just doesn't work like that. It's just not built for investigative games or investigative scenarios. And you kind of have to have not only that sort of brain, but you've got to have the right sort of players, people who are going to take it seriously. But you can do an investigative game in any genre as well. They're not just primarily around private detectives or horror games. Even Pathfinder First Edition has an investigator class, which is entirely built around this sort of thing. The only problem is if you're not playing a campaign that's kind of geared towards that, it's kind of a waste of space. And fantasy games generally tend to have magic and class abilities that kind of override the whole point of investigation. Science fiction games are the same. Over my years, I've run many Star Trek games. And the problem with Star Trek as a role-playing game is that you can't have a mystery, really. Because let's say you have a murder in a space station or on board ship. The first thing you do is out pops your tricorder and you scan for DNA, and then you put that DNA into the ship system and you find out who on board was in that room. Suddenly you can go, right, well, unless it was committed psychically or by a robot or an android or whatever, then suddenly you've got this sort of thing. And you can only you can get away with that once, maybe. But after that, if you're going to do another investigative one, then it's you can't use the same sort of foils to the characters. You've got to let them get away with it. So certain genres work better for investigative games. But I'll be honest, certain scenarios or campaigns which have been built around a more investigative bent rather than a kick in the door, slay the monster, get the treasure, have actually been really good. If you've got the right group for it, then it doesn't matter that one or two people are not quite Sherlock Holmes minded to solve puzzles and put clues together. You can still have a really good game with it. To be fair, I can't really think of much more I can say on that. But I'd like to know what your thoughts are on investigative games. Do you enjoy them? Have you run them? Have you got any ideas about how you can get round the whole tricorder DNA or divination spells to get round and learn stuff? And what are your favourite investigative games or campaigns that you've done? Anyway, thanks for listening to this one. It's a bit of an odd one. Once again, RPG Day 2020 gives us some really unusual words to do vids on, but there you go. Anyway, thank you for watching, guys. Take care. Good gaming.